Hello and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then hi, my name's Zoe. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. I really do hope that you decide to subscribe, and if you're a current subscriber please make sure that your bell is on, as YouTube doesn't like suggesting the kind of content I like to make. So today I am back at it with another true crime video, and it has been long awaited. This case is a little more confusing and on the longer side, so you might want to grab a snack, grab a drink and sit down and get ready to listen to this case. Today we are discussing the disappearance of Zach Ramsey. Zach Ramsey was born on the 18th of December 1985 and he lived with his mother in Great Falls, Montana in USA. Zach's father worked away with the Air Force and his mother worked long hours in a restaurant to support her two children. Zach was your average little boy. He was talkative, he would talk to absolutely anybody, he was polite, he was always striking up a conversation, he was happy and a loving young boy. On the 6th of February 1996, 10-year-old Zach left his home in Great Falls. He left at around 7:30 AM and made his way to school. He attended Whittier Elementary. It wasn't far from his home and it was a simple route for him to get to school every single day. He would take the same route every single morning and every evening. It was pretty much a normal routine for Zach. That morning he was seen by multiple witnesses walking down the alley, which is part of his route, that was located behind his home. Zach didn't arrive to school that morning, so they decided to call his mother and make her aware of his absence. When his mother got the phone call, she was instantly concerned. He had been talking about that day at school for a long time and he was really excited to go. He would have been winning an award in one of the assemblies and he was really excited and could not wait to get there. She decided to go home and just check there to see if he had gone home for any reason. Maybe he was poorly, but he wasn't. Next, she made her way to the school. She just wanted to get all information together. She wanted to look in the area around the school for Zach. She was trying really hard not to panic. She then decided to scour the local neighbourhood and check the route that he would take to school. Zach's mother never had an issue with him walking to school on his own. He was very cautious and safe. He knew about all the possible situations that could happen and he knew what to do in those situations. He also knew a lot of people in his neighbourhood. He was chatty. He would constantly talk to his neighbours and the adults in the area, so his mother felt very safe with him walking to school. She had brought him up to be independent in certain situations, and she also knew that if he needed help for any reason, he would know how to get that help. After searching for Zach herself, she was starting to get more panicked because she couldn't locate him and she was worried that something was really wrong. So she decided to call the police and report her 10-year-old boy as missing. Zach's mother provided police with a full description of what Zach looked like, what he was wearing that day, and she also gave them recent photographs as well. When he left his house that morning, he was wearing stonewashed jeans, a football jersey with his surname on the back, and he was also wearing a blue denim jacket that had green sleeves. I have to say that the local police department in this case started their investigation very quickly. Their main priority was to find Zach alive and well. There has only been one time where Zach willingly ran away from home, and this happened around a month before this current disappearance that we're talking about. But Zach, after around an hour, gave up, went into a local restaurant, called his mother, asked her to pick him up, and said that he knew his mother would be worried about him, so he wanted to get home as quickly as possible. He didn't want to put his mother through that, and that was just in his nature. Despite the fact that this happened a couple of months prior to this current disappearance, both the authorities and his mother thought that it was not in his nature to just totally disappear. Once police started an investigation, one of the first places that they checked were his relatives and friends' homes. Usually a high percentage of missing children's cases are solved within the first couple of hours because they are at a friend's or relative's home. When officers checked these properties and Zach wasn't there, it was becoming more apparent that nobody had seen him. It was almost like Zach disappeared into thin air. Police then turned their attention to the local neighbourhood to see if anybody had seen him that morning on his way to school. They were knocking on doors, talking to the public and letting everybody know that if they had any information at all, to inform them. They searched his school, they interviewed his friends and his family. Police also searched abandoned cars and sheds just in case Zach was hiding, but unfortunately he was nowhere to be seen. Police officers and volunteers came together to search for the 10-year-old boy, and they started at Gibson Park. It was local to Zach's home, and it took a lot of them to search it because it is a very large park. They searched every inch of that large park. They had people on foot, people with dogs, and they were doing absolutely everything they could to locate this little boy. They were even looking in the trash bins to see if anybody had disposed of any remains. When police had spoken to people in the neighbourhood about Zach's disappearance, there were many witnesses that did come forward to say they did see Zach that morning on his way to school. And this just confirmed to police that he did have intentions of going to school that day, but for some reason he didn't arrive. One witness said that he saw Zach walking down the alley and there was an off-white van parked up. Another person said that they saw this van driving very weirdly in the alley. Instantly, this van became an interesting piece of information for police. Not only one, but two people had described the van. These two people didn't have a connection to each other, and obviously these two people thought this van was suspicious enough to mention it to police. Another witness said that they saw Zach crossing over from the alley to 6th Street, and this was his usual route, and Zach was crying, and there was also a man who was visibly upset. The witness had said this occurred at around 7:45. This information concerned police because the previous witnesses had saw Zach in the alleyway at 7:30. Now this other witness is seeing him outside the alleyway at 7:45. It wouldn't have taken 15 minutes for Zach to get from the alleyway to be crying across the street. Obviously there's been some sort of conversation, altercation between Zach and this man in between them times. Whilst all this information was coming to light, police were still looking for Zach. A local print shop had printed posters to put everywhere with Zach's face on it. Everybody in the community came together and people were really trying to just find this boy safe and well. Despite the community and the police working really hard together, it didn't bring up any other information. Detective Bill Beluski from the local police department was assigned to Zach's case. He had been working in the area for over 18 years. He had watched many child and murder cases unfold. He really hoped to find Zach alive and well and reunite him with his parents, but he just had a gut-wrenching feeling that something wasn't right about this case. He did have an idea of who might be involved in Zach's case, so he decided to follow his gut instinct. Nathaniel Bar-Jonah was born on the 15th of February 1957 in Worcester, Massachusetts. He was originally known as Nathaniel Brown, but once he found religion, he had decided to change his name to Nathaniel Bar-Jonah. He was a serial sex offender and was residing in the area at the time of Zach's disappearance. Bill had been given a list of 10 offenders that lived in the area, and Nathaniel's name was on it, and something just drawed him to Nathaniel. Nathaniel Bar-Jonah's history was quite disgusting. He had been accused of sexually assaulting, torturing and kidnapping young boys, but it seemed every time he went to trial he would get away with it lightly and then continue to do what he was doing. The first time he committed a crime was when he was 5 years old, and he continued to do so for the rest of his life. Nathaniel had managed to move to Great Falls while staying under the radar. At the time of him moving and Zach's disappearance, a law called Megan's Law was waiting to be passed, and this law meant that you had to tell the local police department that you were moving to that area, so they were aware of you and your criminal past. But because this law wasn't quite in place yet, it meant repeat offenders like Nathaniel could just do what they wanted and move around very freely. When this information about the 10 sexual offenders in the area got out to the public, they grew more aware of their surroundings and aware of possible people. It really did make the community in itself worry more, and people were noticing things more and calling the police with tips that could possibly help the Zach Ramsey case. From what I believe, there were some tips in regards to Nathaniel as well that could possibly connect him to Zach's case. Police tried to contact Nathaniel multiple times, but he would just not answer the door to them. He wouldn't speak to them, and when they applied for a warrant, the judge said that they didn't have enough evidence. During this time, the case went pretty cold. Police were looking at the sexual offenders in the area and keeping an eye on them, and obviously still looking to see if they could find any information about Zach's whereabouts. A truck driver did come forward to say that he had involvement in Zach's case. He was arrested and his truck was forensically examined. When he was being interrogated, he told police that this was all a lie. He didn't even know who Zach was. And when the forensic evidence came back, this just confirmed that he had no involvement. For some reason, he had said it for a little bit of fame or attention. It was soon confirmed that Nathaniel had been working in Zach's school and the church that he attended. It was also confirmed that he drove an off-white van. But when this was taken to the judge again, he said it was just all coincidental evidence and that they couldn't have a warrant. But that was all to change in 1999. The case had been quiet for a number of years. They had very little information coming forward and they had kept a close eye on Nathaniel. And it really paid off because in 1999 he was arrested for impersonating a police officer. They finally had him in custody, and this meant that they could get a warrant, search his home and actually see if he had any involvement in Zach's case. Nothing could have prepared police for what they found. They found a list of young boys' names written on a piece of paper. Now on this list were previous victims that he had gone to trial for, and Zach's name was also on the list. But next to Zach's name was the word died. He had hundreds of cutouts from magazines of young boys. They also found notebooks that was filled with coded writing. Over time, the FBI managed to decode this writing. Nathaniel had described how he killed and ate children. He had also written gruesome recipes that involved children's body parts. Police believed that he was a serial abuser, killer and killer. When police were searching his garage, they sprayed the walls with luminol, and the name Tita was written on the walls. So that led them to believe that he was involved in the James Tita murder case. James Tita was unfortunately abducted and later found dead. They had a full list of cases and crimes that were connected to this man, from sexual assault to murder. But unfortunately, he couldn't be charged with the majority of them. It was later speculated by police that Nathaniel was not only just cooking and eating certain body parts himself, he was also feeding them to his friends and to his neighbours. They were always offered food from Nathaniel, and eventually they started to have to refuse because the first few meals that he had offered them tasted really bad. But little did they know that more than likely it contained human meat. Nathaniel Bar-Jonah was prosecuted for the abduction and molestation of 3 boys. He was convicted of aggravated assault and sexual assault. He was jailed for 130 years. Whilst in jail, police started to connect him to other cases and had other evidence come forward. But they were unable to charge him with anything because he died in 2008. To this day, Zach Ramsey's remains have never been found. Police believe that Nathaniel Bar-Jonah is responsible for his abduction and murder, and in 2011 Zach Ramsey was legally pronounced dead. I truly feel for his parents, because to go through that ordeal and then not have an official sentencing or trial for what somebody did to your child must be absolutely horrible. There are so many little things in this case that I've not had a chance to mention in this video because they were too gruesome or too much in detail for YouTube. What I will do is I'll leave a link to that information down below so you can go and read up and read into it if you want to. I just didn't feel comfortable posting that stuff on YouTube. One, because they may take my video down. Two, I don't want to lose my channel, so I try and condense the information as much as I can. But that is it for today's video. I really do hope you enjoyed this true crime video. Make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button, and I shall see you in my next true crime video. Bye.